Spanish speakers. What are some differences between Spanish spoken in Spain versus other Spanish-speaking countries, like British versus American English? Vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar tend to vary depending on the Spanish-speaking country. It's fascinating. The accent. We all disagree on how to handle double L's. I'm an interpreter professionally. Meditando legal. Most difference are just accent and use of words, the meanings and cadence, slang, etc. The most obnoxious thing is everyone believes their versio if Spanish is the only correct acceptable form. Mexican Spanish is often seen as the lowest form of Spanish by my coworkers and people I worked with. I'm Mexican and it puts a smile on my face when I'm praised at work and requested by name. I'm not the best interpreter, but fact I don't believe that there is only one correct form of Spanish is what I know puts me ahead of everyone else. I think European Spanish has a specific word for computer, while American Spanish simply Hispanicizes the word into computadora. A Spanish girl I dated back in college clued me into that. Tortilla. It's a kind of bread in Americas, and an omelet in Spain. The word coger. In Spain, it's a perfectly innocent verb for take. In Mexico, it pretty much universally means to fuck. I was once in a bar with a friend from Spain and we were moving from one table to another, and she offered to go back to our previous table to collect my stuff. I sang, voy a coger tu mierda, her meaning, I'm going to get your shit. I was like, you're going to QUE my QUE? For Chilean Spanish? The tempo. Chileans speak Spanish very asterisk fast. Slang words. Castilian is the word you are looking for. There are quite a few simple vocabulary differences. Just flat out different words. In other cases the vocabulary is similar or definitely derivative, but pronounced differently. Particularly a lot of ZC sounds ends up sounding like TH where they wouldn't in Latin American Spanish. Castilian tends to prefer a different tense when talking about things in the past. Simple versus past perfect is the official term. I did something versus I had already done something. Functionally, in my experience, it's more like trying to understand a slightly different dialect or regional speech. Like there'll be a few words that you might not understand, but it's usually pretty easy to figure out the context. And quite a few words may be pronounced differently, but they are easy to understand as the word you are accustomed to. Other words is just exposure. Someone may whip out y'all if you are from the South, and vosotros if you are from Spain. Versus everybody you and ustedes. And just like in English, you might hear someone say something that sounds weird to your ears like, I'm fixin' to go to the store, but it's pretty easy to figure out the context. Or it's just a new word you incorporate into your vocabulary. Puerto Rican Spanish has so much more English in it than any other Spanish dialect I have ever heard. The main reason for this is because so many Puerto Ricans hop back and forth between living on the island and living on the mainland. Personally, almost my entire family at one point or another has continuously moved from Puerto Rico to New York, New Jersey, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and then back to Puerto Rico. Then rinse and repeat. The result is just a mashup of Spanglish continuously being spoken. And it has rubbed off on the island as a result. Basically, there are so many words that have lost the Spanish version of it. Like if you want a ham and cheese sandwich in Puerto Rico, you ask for a ham and cheese sandwich, but said with a slightly Spanish accent and not for a sandwich de jamon y queso. It wasn't always like that. When I was a little kid in the 80s, my grandparents' generation was really the last generation that spoke pure Spanish. Their generation still had many carryovers from Spain. Not anymore. The influence of mainland-raised Puerto Ricans on the island has changed all that. The accents are very different and, like England, there are different accents even within the same country. The choice and meaning of words varies too. For example, A tutela in Colombia is a type of judicial action used to protect one's rights, whereas in Spain it is where a person is put in charge of another. In Mexico and a bunch of other Latin countries, coger means to fuck, but in Spain and all other Latin countries it's the verb for grab. If you're looking for a difference like elevator and lift, there's juice, which is humo in Spain but jugo in Latin. Accent. Everything is relative, but Cubans have the craziest accents of any Spanish-speaking people. Spanish from Spain sometimes sounds like a completely different language to me. There are a lot of formal terms that I was never taught. NYT just published an interesting piece on the dying New Mexican dialect. I would say Spanish spoken in Spain is most standard, correct one, after all the language itself started there. Keep in mind even within Spain itself, pronunciation and word meaning will vary from province to province. So you can imagine how much it can change from country to country. Vosotros in European Spanish is one of the most noticeable differences, but overall the Spanish spoken in Spain versus other Spanish speaking is basically the same. Coger. Nicaraguans are harder to understand. It's fun how many people state the coger issue. So is there no recoger in Castilian? And here I thought I got weird looks when ordering a cola. XD. Vosotros. Mostly accent and pronunciation. Loads. As Spanish native speaker from Latin America, the Spaniard pronunciation differs from us. Here in Latin America, we tend to easily adopt English terms like Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi, and we use their actual pronunciation from where was invented or created. But instead in Spain to say, logui, fi, they use the pronunciation like if the name was Spanish formed and sounds really weird. Oh, the Spanish Michael Jackson followers told me something. They had followed him to Buenos Aires, too. That was in 1993. And they were saying, actually, shouting to one another, "Vamos a coger un taxi," because they wanted to follow Michael. That's what fans did in those days. In Spain, that just means, let's take a taxi. In Argentina, they were saying, let's screw a taxi. They should have said, "Vamos a tomar un taxi." Or maybe it was the other way round. People from Spain have an accent and it kind of sounds like a lisp lol.